welcome to another edition of the Paranormal Zone. I'm your co-host, Tom Spitalere, and Bob is back from the Alaskan Triangle.
That's back from the frozen tundra.
The frozen tundra. Oh, wait a minute. No, that's Lambeau Field, I thought.
Yeah, it is.
So you're back from the frozen tundra of the of one of the most haunted areas in the United States, even though that's really not considered the lower, that's the upper state, but it's still the United States. So today's show, we're going to be discussing fundraising, maybe a little bit about Bob's trip and a few other things. The Paranormal Zone's set up so we can hear people's opinions on different views of the paranormal. You can always reach us if you want to be a part of this show. By how, Bob?
Yeah. You know, one of the things, Tom, that I think we should put out there is that we interface with a lot of groups. You know, Which Way Paranormal, the group from Peabody.
Dead Time. Yeah,
Dead Time Paranormal.
Yeah.
And we encourage these teams to join us at our events if they want to take a piece of it with us to do some fundraising. Because I think you and I have had this conversation before that there isn't any doubt with everything that's going on in the world today that budgets are being cut all over the place, and federal funds are being withheld, and it becomes more and more critical that historical societies and places like that get ahead of that downturn by doing more fundraising.
Correct.
Now, you and I have experienced the negative, if you will, to the paranormal, that 50% of people we deal with don't believe in it, 50% don't want to, come in contact with it. But historical societies have to remove themselves from that, I think, Tom, and say, hey, we need funds to maintain these historical buildings.
Correct.
And anybody that comes along legally and can present a program to us, we should entertain. And you and I have been doing fundraising for historical societies, Sandown, Kingston. I mean, we've got a resume out there that proves we can raise money for
Methuen, Haverhill, Billerica.
Yeah,
I mean, the towns just go on, and Nashua. I mean, we've been all over the place.
Yeah, and, the church on the plains in Kingston, New Hampshire, when you and I did that event, we raised more money in that one event than they had raised in 6 months.
Right.
Now, I go back, and we've talked about this before, that anybody listening to this show that has any affiliations with, any kind of charities like that, it doesn't have to be historical societies.
Nope.
We can do fundraising for any charity that's a legal charity that wants to raise funds.
I've actually done it for cancer too. Scaring Cancer is one of Essex County's little fundraisers that we do. We've done it a couple times for different people who have had cancer.
I mean, think about the veterans, how they could use fundraising.
Mm-hmm.
Homeless shelters, shelters for battered women. And I guess the message should be that don't just say, well, that fundraiser wouldn't fit into my model. We can make it fit any model you want us to make it fit.
Right, and if you don't want to put it in your building, we'll find a building for you.
Yeah.
Or a location.
We have access to that one place you and I go to a lot.
Right, we have access to a cemetery, and I have access to some other places. So it's not like we can't find a location.
Correct. That's absolutely correct. The only thing that we ask of any organization that comes to us is that you help us with the marketing side of it, because, again, we're contributing 101% of all funds raised.
Correct.
So, we don't have a marketing budget per se, because we're all volunteers.
Mm-hmm.
But what places should do, in my opinion, at least entertain the thought of that to say, hey, you two guys come on out and tell us what your plan is. We may or may not adopt it. But why would you pass free money? I mean, I don't get that.
No, I don't either. And it's I know for some groups it's a little tough, but I mean, Essex County, you guys, you have always made a strong bear to raise money for nonprofits. So,
well, again, I know that the planning can be complicated, but you and I help them with that.
correct.
Every time we've done fundraisers for Sandown places, we've distributed all the material for them. We've asked them to have the material printed up at town hall, but the towns, these towns in Kingston and Deerfield and all these other places, they have that kind of resource to do for these places. So, I just don't know why they don't take advantage of it a lot more.
No, I don't either. But we're out there to help raise money and help raise awareness in the paranormal and beyond. UFOs, Bigfoot, cryptids, New Hampshire cryptids, lake and sea monsters. I mean, you've done talks on a lot of things. With the research that we have done together, we've come up with places like the Sandown Triangle that, we're the ones that coined that term, nobody else. So, right. I mean, there's a lot of things we can actually talk about. And continue to talk about and continue to raise money because the economy is only going to probably get a little worse than what it is, especially in the nonprofit world, especially for food pantries. I'm hearing it already from different places. So, I mean, instead of charging money, you bring a bag of food with you, and there's your donation to the food pantry.
Sure. And you and I have always followed that model that we don't charge for tickets.
No.
That you make a contribution to the group that's putting it on. So it's not like, well, I got to buy tickets and I have 5 in my family, and at $10 a ticket, whatever, would be $50. That's
right.
Not the case. You can come in with 5 people and make a donation of $10, $20, $15, whatever it is.
Right.
Because every dollar moving forward to keep historical buildings in the shape that they're in today counts.
That is correct.
Right? I mean, so to me, again, I think that I encourage people, even if you're not affiliated with a historical society or anything, to give us a call. Send an email to paranormalnh@yahoo.com. Just say, here's what I've got. Here's where we could use some money. And we'll raise 101%. You will get of everything that's raised. It costs you nothing to do that.
Correct. I mean, especially the Halloween season, people love this stuff. It's only a couple months, but people do love it. Then you have the diehards like ourselves that go year round that will follow and go to different locations and do things. And, we're all over Essex County. We're all over New England, southern New Hampshire, Maine, southern Maine, Massachusetts. I mean, we'll even go down to the island of Refugio. Oh, that's Rhode Island.
No. And again, I encourage people to send us emails with requests. I mean, we'll entertain everything. Anybody who sends an email to paranormalnh@yahoo.com, I guarantee you I will respond to it within 24 hours.
Right.
Right? Now, what you and I do is we put a plan together, we go submit that plan. We'll submit it to your board, we'll submit it to you as an individual, however you want to do it. That's
correct.
Up to you. But you should at least take the plan and take a look at it.
Yes, because it's only going to get, I've talked to being involved in the one of the largest chambers in New England, if not the largest chamber in New England. I've talked to many nonprofits, and they're all trying to figure out what to do. Every one of them. I've offered to do fundraising Some people are looking into it. We're waiting on responses.
Yeah.
I know the food pantries, you see that in the local newspaper, they're all down food, and it's only going to get worse as more people are put out on the streets. There's no money for a very important financial program that helped a lot of poor people called RAFT. That is now gone under the new budget. I just read something else big was gone too. I was kind of shocked. There's a couple things I can't remember now. Yeah.
They don't have to have the venue for us to do it in. We'll bring the venue.
Right. We can bring the venue.
Yeah. I think another great fundraiser is restaurants that want to raise money for some of these charities to call us in and partner with us. You and I have done restaurants in the past.
Right.
It's been very successful. We've had as many as 60 people over at Rick's in Kingston. So, you pay for your meal, okay, but Rick's always gave people a discount on the meal.
Mm-hmm.
You hear a night of paranormal. Depending on the venue, you may even see an investigation, all for the cost of a meal.
Right. Well, a little bit more of a meal if we're raising it for a nonprofit, because you got to pay the restaurant and then make sure the nonprofit gets a little bit.
Well, that's right. And the way I've always worked out with the restaurants is that, you put out a price for your meal, that's yours, and we look for donations above and beyond that for the charity.
Correct. So it's a fun night. We used to load up Eggies, the old Eggies that was haunted.
Eggies.
Yeah, we did well at Eggies. I did one up in Nashua once. Oh God, what was the name of that place? Where the sea captain's daughter was in the well. It was out on Route 3. The restaurant is now gone. I think they put a box store there instead. It's up in Nashua. I forgot the name of the restaurant. We've done it there. We've done it at Eggies. I had one in Salem, Mass. at the Hawthorne Hotel that was a success. So we've done these things, and they usually come out pretty well. So those are called either for the paranormal people out there, some people call it dining with the dead. I call it dining with the crossed over. But it's the same idea, same thing. Just another play on words.
I've done weekends at hotels years ago, called Sleeping with the Dead, where we actually brought people in at a discounted rate on Friday and Saturday night, had investigations both Friday and Saturday night, and people did it for a relatively short amount of money, and they loved it. They enjoyed it.
Well, you figure 2 nights, you get a discounted rate. We do it in the off season. You get 2 nights anywhere, it's going to be buku bucks now. So we give you we get a discounted rate. We sell the place out, and you got 2 nights of ghost hunting on top of 2 nights away.
That's right.
For a relatively moderate price.
Yeah, and there are so many great historical areas, not just historical meeting houses, but just historical areas in New England.
Right.
That we can go to and raise money, because any of these places, they're trying to promote their own situation, like Stonehenge here in Salem.
Correct.
I know you've done that a lot yourself.
No, not Stonehenge. Not Stonehenge. We don't want to get Dennis out. I've never done Stonehenge.
Oh, you've never done it?
No,
Okay,
I've done some of the other stone sites in New Hampshire, but not Stonehenge.
Yeah. But again, that's a destination location for
Correct.
people to go to.
Correct.
So anyways, I think it's an interesting concept, and I agree with you, politics aside, that we're going to see more and more cutbacks on programs that have been subsidized or federally, subsidized. That money is going to go away. So if you don't react now, you'll be behind the 8 ball 6 months or a year from now trying to play catch up.
Right, and everything takes time. Fundraisers aren't built overnight. Sometimes you have to have 2 or 3 at that location to get those numbers. When we started at the Tenney Gatehouse, the old Tenney Gatehouse in Methuen, we haven't done there in years, but we started off with like 10 or 12. Before the society changed their mind on it, we had up to 60 to 80 people in there at any given time, including some of the biggest names, including some of the biggest names in the paranormal. I had Keith and Sandra Johnson there, the famous demonologist, Paul Eno, UK psychic and good friend of mine, Gavin Cromwell, from the UK, and Tom D'Agostino and Arlene. And John Zaffis.
Yeah.
The Haunted Collector.
I mean, Essex County Ghost Project commands some of the big names in the industry. They want to be affiliated with Essex County Ghost Project. You know, if you look at Debbie Raymond Panett, one of the, most mediums in New England.
Actually, she is, in my opinion, in my humbled opinion, I've worked with her, not as much as you have, Bob, but pretty close. She is the best psychic in New England.
Yeah, she's top rated. And, she has said many times, any event that you run, to help a charity or a historical society, whatever it is, she's more than willing to come and contribute her time for that. So, I've been very lucky because the people that I've sent to Debbie, and I've sent a lot of people to her over the years, I have never had anybody come back with a negative comment about it. Now, some of those people, Tom, are still going to her today after 10 years. Right.
Well, that just proves how great of a psychic she is.
Yeah, she's very good. And I tell a quick story about her because you can fact check this. I'm going to say maybe 10 or 15 years ago now, a little boy went missing in Hampstead, New Hampshire. Without getting into a lot of details, the little boy was challenged.
Yeah.
Got out somehow and disappeared. A day after he disappeared, they asked for volunteers to search for him. And what happens in these cases, Tom, is that, as you well know, it soon becomes a recovery situation versus a search situation. And that's within 48 hours. They recognize if you don't find him in the next 24 to 48 hours, that's a problem. Anyway, I went to there were virtually 1,000 people showed up in Hampstead for this search. And as a side story, quickly, it became a problem for law enforcement because there were so many people volunteering to go look for him that they were very concerned that a lot of evidence and so forth was going to get trampled on or missed.
Which can happen when you have a lot of people, especially if they're not trained.
That's right. And the second thing that happens is that if it's a kidnap case, lots of times that suspect will insert himself into the investigation. And it's very difficult to identify people. So when you have matches. Anyways, I went to this state police sergeant, and I told him, I said, I work with a medium. She's very good. I'd like to call her and just run this by her. And he said, look, he said, I'm willing to try anything. I just asked you to do me a favor. Whatever her comments were, just feed it back to me and nobody else.
Well, that makes sense.
That's not a problem. I can definitely do that. Well, the long and short of it is, without going through all of the details, now day 2 of the investigation. So certainly attitudes were starting to get very negative at this point, right? That this is probably not going to end well after 2 days.
Right.
And that becomes important. That becomes important to this story in a minute. But Debbie gave me a street that the little boy was on, and he was alive. They searched that street and couldn't find anything. Well, late in the afternoon, 2 people who live on that street, which happened to be within a football field of his home, by the way,
Mm-hmm.
came home and found an ice cream container on their kitchen table.
Okay.
And whichever spouse came home first, the second spouse came in and thought the first spouse must have opened it. Well, when they came back and got together and they said, "Who did you take the ice cream out?" They said, "No." Well, long and short of it was the little boy had gained entrance to the house, got under their bed, and stayed there for 2 full days.
And ate ice cream.
And when they left, he would eat the ice cream that day. So they didn't know this for 2 full days. On the third morning, they saw her. Now, it ends up as the street that Debbie said he was on was absolutely the same street that these people lived on.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? And when she said, no, he's very much alive, it was against almost all the odds at that point.
Right, because of past track records.
Correct. That's correct. That's absolutely correct. So thank God in that case, God was watching over him and it ended well. But my point is, that's how good Debbie is. Debbie's worked with the FBI. She's worked with law enforcement, New Hampshire State Police. So, she's very good at all of that stuff. But I say that about her because if you want us to do an event for you, we can't promise she'll be a part of that event, but she usually is.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
So, and there's a lot of other talented people like Bill with his equipment. And,
one of the top-rated tech guys in New England, if not the best.
Yeah, I'd say he's the best in New England. Absolutely. And again, this is, you get 101% of all money raised.
Mm-hmm.
Now, you and I both know there's groups out there that take a percentage of the money. They don't give everything to the charity or the historical society, right? They take it all. And Essex County Ghost Project doesn't do that.
Correct. I do want to mention one thing so people don't get confused. If we do a talk, they get 101%. We do a ghost hunt, they get 101% no matter where we're at, unless there's bills to be paid. When we do a dining with the dead or a dining with the crossed over or whatever we call it, there are some, we have to pay the restaurant. So some of that money will go to the restaurant, the rest will go to the nonprofit, and we'll do a spreadsheet to show you what went where and everything else so you know with all the receipts. Exactly. And if you don't trust that, if you collect all the money and handle the whole thing for us and we just come in and do it, then you will see how much money was raised because you're the one that's going to be cutting the check to the restaurant. The only thing gets a little thing with the money is when we do with the dining with the dead or dining with the crossed over because there's a big bill to pay because food costs are probably $40 to $50 a head, even with the discount today.
Yeah, and I think that's a different type of fundraising. Right. There are 3 or 4 different models that you can use.
Right.
You and I have always said to the organizations we're dealing with, you pick the program that's best for you.
Correct, but I just want to make sure people understand how the dining with the dead works, or where there's, a major amount of money. I mean, Sandown train station, when we do that, they're great. They put out some water, they get it donated or whatever. They sometimes put out a couple little snacky things for people, and that's it.
Yeah.
Everybody gets to eat for nothing or little snacky things with water or whatever they have, and that's that. Yeah. Some places will do that, some won't.
Yep. Well, I think you and I have also experienced that if you go to places like Dunkin' Donuts and other places in a particular town,
right,
they're more than happy to donate, coffee, donate donuts, donate stuff like that.
Especially a small town. If you're in a big city, it's a lot harder, like a Haverhill or Methuen or Lawrence. But if you're up in Hampstead, Sandown, Kensington, even Exeter. I mean, there's not a lot of nonprofits in town, and all those nonprofit people, since there's not many Dunkin' Donuts in town, usually go to the same Dunkin' Donuts every day of the week or pretty close to it. So they don't mind kicking back a little bit.
Yep. No, you're absolutely right. And now, through your efforts, you've diversed Essex County Ghost Project to where we now have Skywatchers International. And Skywatchers can do an event if you don't want to do a paranormal event. We're talking to an area right now that will go up and do a skywatching event some night at a historical location. I'm not going to mention it yet because we're still finalizing the details, but where people can bring a telescope, people can bring binoculars. We'll identify, if you're not into UFOs or UAPs, that's okay, because we'll identify planets, we'll identify satellites for you. We can have a lot of fun doing that. We ran these events on Mesa Basic in Auburn, and they were a great success. So you can use that as a fundraiser. So that takes the paranormal side of it out, if you want, and it becomes a night sky watching event.
That is correct.
Right? So now we have 3 plans for this year for the team, but we're going to open that up to the public if they'd like to attend. It will have to be controlled somewhat because we are going on, state property in some cases, so we have to get permission. The one thing they always ask is, how many people do you anticipate? So those events will be not closed off, but certainly by invitation.
Correct.
When we run the first one coming up in 2 weeks, we'll put it out on Facebook, and if you want to attend, all you have to do again is send a request to paranormalnh@yahoo.com. Say, Jay, I'd love to go to this event. It's myself, my kids, and my wife. We have a telescope. We'll fit as many people into that event as we possibly can. Now, right now, that event is not a fundraiser, okay?
No.
But if there's an organization out there that would like to do a fundraiser for that, for example, Tom, and you broke the code on this, if you took a nursing home or a facility like that had a good-sized backyard, we could do a fundraiser right there on their property for them using skywatches.
Correct.
Right?
Yes.
So, the sky is the limit. What you have to be able to do is think outside the box and say, hey, I listened to these guys on the podcast. Let's call them in and see what they got. What do you have to lose? That's my question.
Right. Absolutely nothing.
Nothing. That's the answer. You got nothing to lose. If you don't like what you hear, then you move on from there. So, I just don't know why people aren't banging their door down to discover, found money.
Well, I think a lot of it has to do with perceptions. It took a while. It took a while to crack the code with the seniors, because obviously these nursing homes didn't want me going there talking about the ghosts living in the nursing homes, because obviously it doesn't look good for a nursing home.
No.
So I have a different way of doing it, and the nursing home centers love it because it gives them some, they put us down as entertainment. As long as I'm educating, if they think it's entertainment, that's fine by me. I don't really, care what it goes under. I feel like it's education. If they feel better calling it entertainment, let them do it.
Yep. Yeah. You remember that we did 3 events at a adult daycare center in Hampstead, New Hampshire.
Yes. Those were great, too.
Yeah, and it was well received by the attendees, and to a point where I think we did 3 of them, where they kept inviting us back. So,
and they're not even there anymore.
No, they're not. You're right.
So it's not like we lost that. They left town for whatever reason.
That wasn't a fundraiser necessarily, but it was a value added to the daycare for adults, right? So
Yeah,
You know,
it
people
gave them activities for an hour or so.
That's right. Changed what they normally do, and it broke the monotony of going every day and doing the same thing. So, again, go, send us an email and explore what the possibilities are. It cost that organization zero to do that.
Mm-hmm.
So,
And all the senior programs I do through the paranormal, I don't charge the nursing homes or the assisted living locations. I just go do
yeah,
them.
yeah. We used to, if you think about it, over the years, we've done a lot of assisted living.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I mean, I did the one over there in Londonderry.
Right.
Debbie and I must have done 4 or 5 events in the course of 2 years over there for them, you know, and it was always well received.
Right. So I mean, if you're out there and you're a coordinator for elder services, elder care, and you're somewhere in the local area here, reach
Right.
out to the Paranormal Zone, or you can reach out to Essex County Ghost Project me directly. It doesn't matter. I'll get back to Bob, whatever's easier for you guys.
Yeah.
And
I mean,
see what happens because it's fun. The elderly love it. We bring a lot of equipment with them that make a lot of noise, so they enjoy the noise. And we do set off the equipment because you can buy certain metals that the equipment will go off, so you can actually do like you're investigating, but you're not really investigating. And they love that stuff.
yeah. You know, I think it's a good time to talk about volunteers too. You know, Essex County Ghost Project has been very fortunate the last year that we've recruited a lot of people, but there's room for more. So if you have any interest in the paranormal and everything paranormal, not just, you know, spirits and ghosts.
No, we do Bigfoot, we do cryptids, we do a little bit of everything, stone research, like the Danville Beehive and others, but we're not going to go public with those. Just the public Danville Beehive. I spent a lot of time in that area and other beehives like that. UFOs, UAPs, whatever you want to call them. We're always out there doing something. And I wasn't going to say anything. I didn't the last show. I knew about it going into the last show. But I just want to let everybody know I wasn't going to say anything, Bob, because I'm a very, reserved type of fella for the most part. But I starting back in '07, so people have the background to this. I started the Essex County Ghost Project show at HC Media. We're now in LCAT, and we've done stuff with Methuen, Manchester, New Hampshire, Londonderry, Billerica. We're all over the map now. But at that time, I was just at HC Media. And you remember coming on a couple of those shows back in the day, right, Bob? Oh, those were fun days. I'm still doing those shows. So this past annual meeting, I was nominated and won the Lifetime Achievement Award at Havel Community Access TV.
Oh, congratulations.
So I wasn't actually going to bring that up, but, but I've been doing, I don't know, because it was very humbling. In fact, I got laughed at that night, Bob.
By who?
By everybody in the crowd. I was so embarrassed. My niece was there. Everybody, my family was there, and I was so embarrassed because the executive director, Matt Belfiore, who's a good friend of mine, goes, "Tom, you need to come up and say something." So I get up to say something. The first things out of my mouth is, "I'm speechless." Now, 60% of most of the people in the room that was at this event knew me anyhow. And they know if you know me, I'm not the most speechless guy in the world.
Absolutely, yeah.
But thank you. That's another thing that's important is that we've always fought, Essex County has always fought for the rights of public access TV. Because public access TV is your free TV. It is your community paper. It is your community news. It is your community. And I know you did some shows up in Exeter at one time and a few other locations. And it's very important that community access TV stays funded and continues to grow. Because without community access TV, we don't have a community.
Yeah, no, I agree. I was with WSCA for a few years, which is public radio in Portsmouth. And, frankly, we really didn't care about ratings of each show. And we did a whole menu of different things. We did rock and roll, we did politics, I brought the Paranormal Zone to them. I think they're still doing something like that today, 10 years later. Because in a community, there's many, many interests. And, when you developed this podcast, by the way, over a year ago now, right?
Yep.
We've been on the air for a year. The idea was to give a voice to the paranormal community.
Correct.
So that you can come on the podcast anonymously if you choose to do that. We give that option. And why? So that you're not criticized, you're not held accountable. You can come on and tell us your story. It's your story, so tell it any way you choose. But it's so important to me that you have Lawrence TV and you have Haverhill and these places like WSCA that is willing to give a voice to all kinds of different groups of people. And that's really what we should be about. We should be about not discriminating against people's beliefs. If you don't want to support the belief, that's your God-given right, and I defend that.
Correct.
But you shouldn't have a right to stifle it because somebody doesn't believe in it. Because frankly, my experience over 20 years has been 50-50. 50% of the people I talk to believe in it, and 50% don't. I mean, I'm not sure that's accurate, but it's pretty close.
And out of the 50% that don't, 49.99% will listen to it and respect you. And that one little drib is, I'll never forget the night we were in Lawrence at the Heritage State Park doing a talk. I wasn't involved with LCAT at the time, but Lawrence Community Access TV did come to view, to film the talk, right? And one guy and his wife were there. And I'm, beforehand, I had brought donut holes for everybody. Sometimes I'll bring, because they had coffee. I said, I'll bring some donut holes. You put the coffee out, right? Because it's October. I mean, everybody wants a cup of coffee at night. I mean, it's cold. It's chilly. So we had coffee. And they're over there asking me some real interesting questions. But you could tell they weren't believers. So now I got up and explained how Essex County gets rid of entities, if we can, if it wants to go. And if we don't have to, we can bring help in, right? And one way was, pushing the spirit out. And these two raised their hands, so I call on them like I would anybody else. And they go, so you do exorcisms? No, I get rid of negative entities. There's only one group that can get rid of negative entities. Oh, there is? Yeah. Only one group? Oh, this must be a great group, I'm thinking to myself. And I said, what's the name of the group? Because I'd like to meet them. Oh, the Catholic Church. I went, oh, I was raised Catholic. I went to all the CCD classes you could think of. Okay? Yeah. But what they forget to tell you, when a Catholic priest comes in and does one of these things, it costs you thousands of dollars, especially if you're not a Catholic. Right. It costs you thousands of dollars. It costs you nothing to have me take a shot at it and try to help you out.
Yeah, and again,
or bring in people that know what they're doing. Right, exactly. So I mean, so I said to them, I said they didn't know, and then they go, so they calm down. Then they raise their hand again. I call on them. What religion are you? Yeah. Well, it doesn't matter what religion I am. I am Catholic, but I have to understand all religions, because if I go into a house that's an atheist and there's an entity that needs to go bye-bye, I start throwing holy water at it. Guess what's going to happen to that spirit? Nothing. The holy water is rained useless because the people don't believe. You have to have your client's beliefs. So you have to have an understanding of all religions.
Right.
They walked out the door.
Yeah.
They thought with a TV camera rolling, and because the state park had never done it before, I had guests from Boston, from DCR showing up because they had never done something like this before. And I, very active at that park. So they took a chance. But some of the bigwigs came from DCR at the time. They all loved it, especially handling the non-believer of sorts. I didn't insult them so they get mad at the park or me. I pretty much told them nicely that it is what it is.
Well, I think that you and I, that's probably why we've been so friendly for 20 years. I think we follow kind of the same philosophy. I say in all my talks when I was active doing it, that I'm not here to convince anybody that ghosts exist.
Right.
And I doubt you're going to leave here tonight with any different thought than you came in with. Because if you're not open-minded enough to come in and say, well, let me look at what he does, let me look at how he does it, and I'll make a decision, then I'm not here to try to educate you to ghosts exist or they don't. That's not my role here. My role here is to show you how we do it. You and I, in 20 years, have had hundreds of experiences that go way beyond what do you think that was.
Correct.
And I always say to groups, why is it that, like in the UFO world, Tom, there is a lot of fraud. We know that. It's been going on since time, okay?
Mm-hmm.
That people have pictures of pie plates and everything else. Well, we're not going to stop that. That's human nature. You can't stop it. But let's assume that out of 10 experiences, that you could prove 8 of them are fraud. But 2 of them you can't. Why don't we focus on the 2 that we can't explain?
Correct.
Why do we focus on the 8 that we can? Listen, unfortunately, and I don't want to get into this too deeply because I don't want to have people say, well, he used your name or my name. I'm not using anybody's name. But we know that through history that people have gone out and fraudulently claimed UFO sightings and other things. We know that. But,
correct.
But we can't control that.
No, we cannot.
And when people say, well, let me see your evidence. I've shown pictures, I've shown things to people that you and I have captured over 20 years. And again, it breaks down right across party lines. 50% say, oh, that's Photoshopped. Okay, if that's what you believe, I don't know what more I can do for you.
Correct.
So, 20 years ago, I gave up on trying to prove to people ghosts exist. If you don't believe they exist, it's okay. It's okay with me if you don't believe that.
No, you're right about that. Because you're not going to change people.
You're not going to change people, unfortunately. But I always say to people, what you want to do, if you're really not sure, if you're in that I'm not sure category, open yourself up to understanding it. Come to events. Question. You and I have stood in front of 80 or 100 people and said, if you doubt what I'm saying, ask me any questions you want. Have you ever done an event that you haven't opened it up to the floor to question you?
No, I've always had people give me questions.
Absolutely. And I say to people, I don't have 100% of the answers.
No.
But if you want to know how a K2 meter works or why it's doing what it's doing, I'll give you my best shot. I'll tell you how I've used it and how it's worked for me. This is where Bill does such a great job as an equipment guy, because he inherently understands exactly how all that equipment works and how it fits into the story of ghosts.
Yes, that is true.
Right? Now, you can watch Phil's presentation, and like I said, 50% of the people say, oh, well, I don't buy that. I don't buy that. Okay, that's fine. Don't buy it. Nobody's forcing you to buy it.
Right.
But you're missing out on a lot in life if you just take a black and white approach to everything that you do.
That is so true.
And, thank God that medicine doesn't take that approach, or the death rate would be a hell of a lot higher than it is. Okay.
Correct.
So, anyways, I hope that we got through to some people tonight.
Yeah, I do too.
You and I have spent 20 years trying to help organizations.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know about you, but I can guarantee you, I'm not driving a Ferrari today because of it.
No, neither am I. Neither am I. Nope.
You mean the stories about you've made over $50 million in 20 years are not true?
That's definitely not true. That is correct.
Well, were you even close to 50 million?
No, not even close. But you know what? I do it because I enjoy it. I love what I do. And as long as I keep loving what I do, I'm going to continue to do it because I enjoy it. And helping out nonprofits, I'm on nonprofit boards all over the area. I'm not going to give them out, but I am on nonprofit boards. I work for nonprofits. I do a lot in the nonprofit world. So I understand nonprofits probably better than 90% of the people out there. So with that, Bob, though, we've come to the end of a great show.
Oh, it's been fun.
It has been fun. Let's see and next week we'll have on another exciting guest, and we'll keep going. We'll keep producing the shows, and pretty soon we're going to be broadcasting from a new studio, brand new studio with some upgrades to it, and that's coming probably within the next month. We'll keep our listeners in suspense, but
there you go.
We'll have a special night, the night we start the Paranormal Zone. I want to thank everybody for tuning in tonight. Again, how can they reach the Paranormal Zone, Bob?
Well, I was going to say this before we go.
Yeah.
You certainly could send an email to paranormalnh, no caps, one word, at yahoo.com. I'll respond to that quickly. They can go to your Facebook page, Essex County Ghost Project, correct?
Right, or they can give me a call at 978-376-2807. My phone number's out there anyhow, so that's no big deal.
So there's a lot of avenues for them to reach us, and I know you. So if they call you or send you a message, you'll get back to them within 24 hours too. So again, I'll put a challenge out closing out the show. I would challenge 5 historical societies in New England to contact us in the next 2 to 3 days to talk about fundraising. And I can guarantee you, if you do that, you will be extremely pleased at the end of the season on how much money we raise for you. That's a guarantee.
Correct.
Guarantee. And you can hold me to that. But you got to send a message. Essex County Ghost Project Facebook. Tom's number. Give it again, Tom.
978-376-2807.
There you go. Or paranormalnh@yahoo.com.
That is correct. All right, then I want to thank everybody for tuning in tonight. I will. I'm heading back to the crypt, and we'll talk to you soon. Good night, world. Good night, everybody.